that you have a collaboration between socialists and liberals, whereas for another dossier that you have a collaboration with the Greens and the ECR, where we are apart from, so it's the European Conservatives and Reformists. So it's, for each dossier, you have to search for a majority effect. So that's why everybody has to work with everybody, because if for one dossier you don't work with them, it's possible that you have to work with them for another dossier. So that's why the atmosphere is completely different than in national parliament, because you don't have that game of majority versus the opposition. So that's also a very, very interesting and very specific thing about the European Parliament. What can I tell you otherwise? I think for the rest, I think the European Parliament is something very specific for the European Union. I think the European Union is the only international organization that has his own directly elected parliament. It doesn't exist for any other international organization. That's also why we say that the European Union, it's not a classic international organization. It's not like the UN or the Council of Europe. It's something completely different. And the European Parliament itself, it has gained more and more powers since the beginning of his direct election. It's the first direct election, it was in '79. And since '79, Parliament gained more and more and more powers. So also for MEPs, it's very interesting because we can influence more and more European legislation. So it's a very interesting atmosphere to work in, and I really like it myself. I suppose that the lady from the DG Communication will tell you a lot more on the general stuff. So I suppose that now I'm here because I have a meeting at 11, that for the minutes that rest us, that maybe it's more interesting for you to be able to ask me questions and then I can answer them. And so just shoot your questions and I will be glad to answer them. Anybody has some questions? Or things you want to know more about, of how things work, or how we do some things, I don't know, just ask.
So, and also one question, is beginning from '79, you told me, so, the legislation, how long is the tenure of the legislation? Is it 4 years or 5 years?
It's the legislature, it's 5 years, so we are elected for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's when we started, for example, because the elections were in May and everybody was settled in July, but the terms of legislations that were proposed, we are now working, for example, on legislation that was initiated the former legislature, if you want. So it just keeps going on, but it are the members who are changing, if you want. So, but we are chosen for 5 years.
So how many members?
The European Parliament has 751 members from 28 different member states, and they are divided according to the number according to the population of a member state. So Germany, for example, has a lot more members than Belgium. It's normal. So
how many from Belgium?
Belgium has 22 members. Yes, 12 Flemish, 8 Francophone, and 1 German-speaking member. Yeah.
How many parties representative in?
How many parties in European Parliament? Oh, I don't know by heart, but there are a lot. I think it's nearly 200. I don't know if you know it by heart. I think it's nearly 200 parties that are represented in Parliament.
More than 180.
Yeah. So nearly 200. So it's a lot. And the parties there are sitting in Parliament according to, we call it groups. So you have from the left, I think in total there are seven groups. You have from the extreme left, if you want, to the extreme right, and then also you have the non-inscrits, we call them, that are the parties that are not taking part in a group, because to be member of a group you have to be accepted and so on. So, but there are seven groups. And as a national party, you become a member of a group where you think that you feel best or that's representing the best your point of views on several topics. But of course you can imagine that, for example, the EPP, for example, who is the biggest group, the European People's Party, it's like in general you can say the Christian Democrats, but it's the Christian Democrats of 28 member states, so it's really, even in that group you have very different views, so it's not that it's completely a coherent one coherent thing, because you have so many parties, like I said, almost 200, so you form a group, and let's say that most of the views on the big topics you share, but it's often that on smaller topics or other things that you differ from an opinion from the group. And then, for example, in our group, the European Conservatives and Reformists, the biggest party in our group is the Tories of the United Kingdom. They're the biggest ones. But if we, for example, because we are 4 members in the group of 72 we are for the moment, I think, in the ECR, if we want to take another point of view or want to vote in another way than the Tories, for example, it's not that they will say to us, no, you have to change your point of view because we will vote that way. No, it's not working like that in our group. We are more independent. We tell it each other that, no, we want to vote in favor because, and then we mention the reasons, and then we say, okay, we have another point of view, but you can vote as you want, because it's not possible. For example, EPP, for example, there are more than 200 members. It wouldn't be nice if you want to tell the more than 200 members you have to vote like this or like that. So that's a little bit how it works. So we have nearly 200 parties who are divided in 7 groups, and the group is presenting more or less the big lines on how you see the social teams and everything.
You know, I have one question.
Yes.
Well, the Brussels,
Yes.
European Parliament makes different policies, international, national policies about commerce, economy, military, and politics. Now in Nepal, since we are Middle East, we have political problem in Nepal,
Yes.
constitution writing. And do you sometimes discuss in your parliament, and what is your view about Nepal's politics?
Yeah. I don't know by heart the details of Nepalese politics, but I can tell you that in European Parliament we have 20 committees. Each committee is working around a certain team, and we have a committee working, it's an AFET committee we call it, who is working specifically on external relations, external affairs. So it's within that committee that all topics that are not relating to European topics as such are discussed. So it's in the AFET committee that we discuss problems like you have in Nepal, for example. And within that committee, you even have a subcommittee who is working around human rights, which I think is also a very important topic for Nepal, for example. And so those questions are all treated and handled in that committee. So what is very important, I think, to mention is that everything that has to do with external policy within European Union, it has to be voted with unanimity. So it's one of the, I think it's the only big team where we still need unanimity, because for the most other topics we have a qualified majority, so it means that not everybody has to agree to put legislation on the table. But for external affairs, it's with unanimity, and the reason why it's like that is because member states are very attached to their sovereignty, and external affairs, it's a very specific topic where each member state wants to keep its sovereignty. So that's why for external affairs, everybody has to agree when European Union takes action. So that's also why people often think that, for example, when there are problems in Libya or somewhere outside European Union, European Union is also always acting very slowly, if you want. And the reason is, especially what I just mentioned, the reason is that we have to vote with unanimity. So it's often that, for example, Germany and France don't share the same opinion. So because they don't share the same opinion, you can't have unanimity. So that's why European Union can't undertake action. So that's why with those like for example, if there would be problems in Nepal or with national politics within your country, it's very hard for European Union to undertake action just because of the fact that we need unanimity on that topic.
Okay, personal relation is okay, but there is some international issues like indigenous rights
Yes.
and human rights.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think you are in one voice, I hope.
Yes, yes, of course. We are, European Parliament is a big defender of human rights. Like I just told you, we have within the Committee on External Affairs, we have a subcommittee specifically on human rights, who is treating the problems on human rights. Even, for example, I can tell you, every Thursday when we are going to Strasbourg, because once a month we go for 4 days to Strasbourg, and in Strasbourg, Thursday, it's always a day where the resolutions on human rights are discussed. So European Parliament is really like, when there's a human rights violation in any country, it's often that European Parliament is the first one to make a resolution and to condemn the violations that are going on in a certain country. Yes.
Thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions?
Question, how can we bring some agenda in the European parliaments? And who can bring this agenda in the table in the parliament, European Parliament?
Yes.
And if some are presented in the tables in the agenda, how long it will be take? 1 year, half year, how long it will take to be finalized and it will be implemented in the all over the Europe?
Yeah. I think, first of all, the most important thing to be able to put a certain theme on the agenda is to lobby. That's the most important thing. Just write to MEPs, tell them what the problem is. That's the first thing you have to do, because there's no other way if you want. Otherwise, you have to go through the European Commission. But it's very hard to get to be able to contact people of the Commission. So I think that the best way is to contact MEPs in a direct way. So that's the first step. As you can imagine, we receive a lot of emails of a lot of interest groups. So if it's on a certain problem, just write to as much as MEPs as you can. Be very specific. Say what you want, how you would want it. So be very detailed. And then I think, since it's Nepal, like I told your colleague, the only thing we can do within European Parliament is to adopt resolutions on a certain problem, to raise the awareness of the European Commission, to raise the awareness of a certain problem, of a certain existing problem, and to take action. Because in European Union, it's only the European Commission that can take an initiative to put a certain proposal for legislation on the table. So as European Parliament, we can say to the Commission, you have to be aware of this or of that. With a resolution, we can do that. But then it's up to the Commission to take it up or not to take it up. But suppose that European Commission would take it up, it wouldn't be on a thing like external affairs. They won't do that very fast. So I think in a part of that, I think because you also ask how long does it take for certain legislation to be adopted, it really depends on the subject. Because on certain subjects, just short, because I think the lady of the DG Communication will explain you further on, within European Union you have always 3 institutions that are working on legislation. You have the Commission, who takes the initiative, and then you have the Parliament and the Council, who have to agree also. So Parliament where you are now, and council, where the member states are represented. So often it's in the second stage that legislation takes very, very, very long, because member states don't agree on certain legislation. So it's really hard to say it takes that long or that long. Sometimes it takes a year, but for other legislation sometimes it takes 10 years, because they're always discussing, they don't agree on certain things. So it really, really depends. If it's a very sensitive topic, it can take a very long time. If it's a topic where member states agree, it can go rather fast. I won't say it takes a couple of months, that never, but I think the fastest it would be within a year or something like that. So, but it really depends on the subject. Okay?
Is there any, like this, if we need to bring the peoples, European peoples, if we need to bring some issue in the table,
Mm-hmm.
how many peoples in the European members, peoples, have to bring it in the table, the agenda? At least, I have listened about the 1 million like this.
Ah,
I
yeah,
have listened about
that's
these things.
a citizen
It can be different
initiative.
kind of countries, 1 million people.
Yes.
How much exactly? I just want to know.
Yeah, but you are talking about the citizen initiative.
Citizen who can be
Yes.
agenda
With
bring in the
1 million,
parliament,
yes,
and
with
then
one-
they can be,
yeah.
after making the signature
Yes,
after all the
indeed.
peoples, then that can be present in the parliament and
It's
it
that.
should be compulsory.
Yeah,
to
it's
be
not.
this-
Yeah, it's not an obligation. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's since the Lisbon Treaty, so since 2009, indeed we
Yeah.
have the citizen initiative where 1 million citizens can ask to the Commission or to Parliament to take something into consideration. But even if there's 1 million signatures,
Yeah.
then still not obliged
Oh, yeah.
to
Okay,
do
that's
something.
also
Yes.
nice.
You see, so that's why I told that I think if you can overhaul the MEPs, as much MEPs as you can to take an initiative, I think that's more influencing than the citizens' initiative. So, of course, if 1 million citizens want something, it's clear that it's hard for institutions to neglect it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not, they're not obliged to respond or to do something with it, but it can be very important political signal. So
That's the strength from the different kind of lobbyism to push
yeah,
in
it's
the
possible.
parliament issue.
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah, indeed. Maybe I will see the time. Oh, it's 10 past 11. So I think I have to go. So, but I hope you will have a nice day here in European Parliament. That will be very interesting for you, and that we will be able to make you enthusiastic about the European project, because I think it's a really good project to work together with different member states to achieve certain goals. So thank you very much for coming to Brussels, and see you later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.